Yeah, so Juneteenth is always a celebration, but by no means a signal that the work is done. For weeks we've been hearing about justice, but today's march held by King County Equity Now Coalition, we're hearing about equity. And as they walk through the historic Central District, it's something that they used to call home for decades. It's clear as they clear through 23rd Avenue just how little is left for their community.
I started cutting hair in this area in the late 80s.
Earl Lancaster's Earl's Cuts and Styles is a staple in the Central District.
It was a thriving black community, you know, all businesses, restaurants, clubs, stores.
But little by little, that community tapered off.
People come from out of town, they come here and say, I heard this was a black community, where's Africatown? They don't see it.
Development turned to displacement. 23rd and Union, a historic black hub, became unrecognizable to the families who called it home.
What I'm seeing now, to be honest, is really, it makes me sad.
Trayana Holiday grew up here.
Good to see you.
In this haven for black families. If haven means the only place you're allowed.
They pushed us into this area because they didn't want us anywhere else.
In the 20th century, Seattle neighborhoods had covenants to keep out black people. Where they and other minorities were allowed to live and own, the city redlined, a signal to banks not to loan money here, a barrier to buying homes, starting a business, getting ahead. Now the CD pulled up its own. The first black-owned bank in the Pacific Northwest was right here on 24th and Union, Liberty Bank. It lent to black families when white-owned banks wouldn't. That corner continues to be a lifeline for a culture quickly disappearing in the Central District.
They pushed us here, and then they pushed us out. So we really have to now push ourselves back in.
No longer a bank, Liberty Bank Building has more than 100 affordable housing units, a partnership between the developer and Africatown Community Land Trust. At the bottom, a nod to Central District's culture, with Earls and more black-owned businesses coming soon.
It's a long story, but I'm grateful to still be here.
Across the street where Earl used to be, more new development is hammering away. Like the street corners around it, old establishments.
That used to be Miss Helen's. I mean,
now just a memory.
They didn't even think, well, what was here before? You know, how can we bring some of that vibrancy or culture back to our development, back to our project?
Looking around, the intersection looks like any other in the city.
Seattle needs to remember the history, recognize the history, acknowledge the history that black people and others from the global majority were pushed into certain situations.
And now they're pushing to stay put. Liberty Bank Building was just a start.
So we need 30 Liberty Bank buildings to bring all of our displaced people back.
With the anger of inequality that we're seeing mobilized across our country, that type of anger which has mobilized thousands here in Seattle, organizers like Africatown are hoping that that can turn into movement toward their cause for a more equitable future. We're live in Seattle, guys. Back to you.